Well, welcome to Speak Up Virginia, everyone. Glad to have you with us. And we're at the Social Conservative Policy Conference, otherwise known as SoConCon 2025. So we've been able to take our podcast on the road. And because we are here with all of these awesome people fighting for life, family, and freedom, we have access to some really great speakers. So I'm excited to have with us today a very special guest, Terry Schilling from the American Principles Project.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. I just got here late last night, and I'm just seeing all my favorite people in the entire world, like people that we've all been in battle with together.
It is like family reunion every year.
So it's great. I mean, we are in a battle. We are up against probably one of the most evil movements in human history, and they're all going towards our children, which is very concerning, but very happy to be here. It's awesome.
And as a father, I think I hear you speak out of your role as a father and that love for kids and protecting kids.
Well,
you've got 7?
I've got 7 kids. And so, look, I've been telling, I just had a big donor meeting yesterday, and he was a new guy, and I was explaining everything we do. And I'm very blessed because there are very many things that I feel passionate about, but you can't really do anything about them in politics. This stuff around children and protecting their innocence, from the gender industry that's pushing these ideas in schools and then transitioning kids and mutilating them in hospitals, the porn industry going after kids. Like, not only are we able to affect all this stuff in politics, like I have a career where I don't have to take off a different hat, right, to serve my family. Yeah. So we're protecting kids across the board, and it's beautiful, and we're winning, right? And that's the most beautiful thing is we've started to win. And now it's like, now the other problem is like, you probably feel this way too, because we're running in Virginia, but it's like, it feels like the dog that caught the car. Like, okay, we're passing these laws. Like, what's next? We'll figure it out. But
yeah, you're up front that we are facing some of the worst kind of evil out there. What do you feel is at the root of that?
Oh man, I sat down with Tucker Carlson earlier in the summer, and we sat down and filmed a whole interview for like an hour and 45 minutes. And I asked him that specific question, and so I don't want to rob him. But what he said was, I think it's evil forces, right? If you look at the nature of evil, the pattern is that it just leads to misery, destruction, despair, and that's what we're up against. So I think that over time, there were, in the 20th century, right, in the 60s, these movements popped up, and they were progressive movements. And what their sole purpose was to destroy the family, destroy America, get rid of every single law that protected people. And I think that our job in the family movement is to combat those anti-family forces, specifically the feminists who, my mom explained this to me. I'm the eldest of 10 kids, and I love my mom. She's very saintly. But she said, what I always disagreed with the feminists about was they were fighting for equality when I kind of felt like I was elevated, like in society. Like, I didn't have to go dig ditches. I didn't have to work in sewers. I didn't have to get drafted to go to war and then get turned into hamburger meat. Like
honored.
Yeah, women were venerated, and they were above all of these terrible things that men have had to do through love and the sacrifice. But I don't know. So the feminists, I've read their writings, Betty Friedan, Gloria Steinem. Their writings were very clear about how they felt about children, how they felt about families. Yes. They literally talk about family as like a plantation and children as like slave masters. Like, these are very sick people who probably had very bad family situations. And unfortunately, they were given tons of money and they were given tons of platforms to promote these ideas that are really just meant at destroying the American family.
Well, and now we know feminism has lost its way so badly that they actually don't know what a woman is. They don't care that everything that they fought for seems to be being literally stripped away by men entering sports and men. I mean, it's amazing to me that the roots have taken it in such a bizarre direction.
Well, I don't think it took it in a bizarre direction. I think
logical extension.
I think us normies, us civilians who listen to their arguments, this is just about equality. Right. I think that we just got lied to, and we got tricked. It was never about equality. Right, it was actually about tearing down men, erasing all differences between men and women, which is absolutely terrible because I really love women. Right. I actually think that like God made women.
Good thing we're different. Imagine if we were all the same.
Oh my gosh, like it would be terrible. Men and women are so different. They complement each other in very beautiful ways, and we need both of them. If we erase women, if we erase men, you're not going to have a future.
Or erase children in the womb.
Exactly.
And your organization is really devoted to countering that destruction of the family. And yes. I like how right on your website, you have right there that you want to make family the most powerful, well-respected special interest group. And you're out there at the tip of the spear, election campaigns, you're unapologetic about that. I'm here to represent the family in DC. Tell us a little bit about your mission that way, what you feel like is probably the biggest challenge you face right now to defend family.
Well, look, I think the 30-second or even 15-second is in DC. You guys know that every state capital, there's big pharma, big oil, big tobacco, big hospitals. Like there's all these special interest groups, and they are funded by the industries that they represent. And they are merciless against the people that are trying to attack them and destroy their industries. I think it's a cynical play, but I think we need to treat the family as a special interest group. And that's what we're trying to do. So it's not big pharma, big oil, big tobacco. We're big family, right? And when it comes to parental rights, right? The biggest race we got involved in was in 2021 against Terry McAuliffe, where he said that I don't think parents should be telling schools what to teach. What's so crazy is that the Democrats still haven't learned. And in fact,
they're doubling down in places. We catch them still saying that stuff in Virginia.
Victoria, they're worse though now. They're saying not only do they not want parents telling schools what to teach, they don't want parents even knowing what schools teach. Abigail Spanberger voted against the parental Bill of Rights in Congress. And so we have to make them pay a political price when it comes to their anti-family extremism. Otherwise, they're just going to keep pushing it, right? But so let's just do a quick rewind. We invest primarily in campaigns and elections through our PAC, and we attack Democrats and Republicans when they're bad on these issues. After this last election in 2024, we spent $18.1 million. We had finally a few somewhat normal, sane Democrats, Tom Suozzi in New York and a few others. They all started saying, hey, maybe we shouldn't let boys and girls sports.
Yeah, there are rumblings now, at least, from a few corners. If
we can win the next midterm or keep the Democrats from gaining both chambers in Congress, stall their victories, they're going to be forced to reconcile with this. I do think there's still a lot of normies that are elected officials in the Democratic Party. I think they feel hamstrung. So we got to give them the out. We got to give them the excuse. We got to hammer them with these campaign ads, get them scared so that they go back to their caucus meetings and their back rooms, and they're like, guys, we got to drop this transgender thing. It's killing me. I'm tired of talking about giving kids sex change procedures. Like, we have to make them pay a political price. And I think that's, if I had one criticism of the pro-family movement in America over the last 40 years, it's that
too kind.
We were too kind and we withdrew from politics.
Yeah.
We stopped running campaign ads. We started just focusing on the culture. And I think that's unfair. I think the cultural efforts are very important, but I think politics is part of the culture. Donald Trump's proven that. It drives it.
No question.
Thank you for saying that. It drives it.
I mean, it can go both ways, but there's
Agreed.
no question that policy can drive culture, and that it matters what happens. Because I mean, our young kids, they're getting taught that what is legal is moral. Like they really believe this.
Yeah.
That is not always true, and so but then it really matters if that's what they believe. We better put the right laws in place,
right,
because otherwise their morality is even further off.
Well, the law is a teacher,
It is.
and law is literally morality.
Yeah.
They always say you can't legislate morality. That's what a law is. Like, the law is the most basic form of morality. It's literally the point at which we'll throw you in jail and fine you if you violate that. Like, it's the most base form of morality ever.
All right, everyone can see that Terry doesn't pull any punches.
Yeah.
So I want to ask both of y'all this question. We'll start with you, Terry.
Yes,
So since you're in the fray, how do you see keeping the Republicans to stay in the culture war and not start getting afraid again and get timid and back away? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that too, Victoria, but let's start with you, Terry.
Well, first of all, we have to run campaign ads. We have to show Republicans how to make these arguments to voters. We have to show them how to talk about it. So what APP does on this front is we're constantly pulling all of these issues. And when new culture war issues come up from the left, we're pulling that. We're showing politicians where their voters in their districts.
Show them the 80-20.
We show them this is an 80-20. And look, even when we were showing them that these issues were 65, 35 or whatever, they were still hesitant. We had to actually spend the money in their races. We had to actually show them how to win on it. And once they started winning elections on it, then it was like the dam burst. And so we have to show them that issues work in politics, and we have to build those relationships. Victoria, you do a great job of this in Richmond and all throughout Virginia. these politicians do not care who you are if you're not supporting them. If you have no ability to help them or be a benefit to them by either supporting their campaigns or attacking their opponents, they really don't care. Like, politicians are very simple creatures.
Very transactional.
They just want to get reelected.
I mean, I hate to say it, but that's the reality. The votes are what talks. And if you can help them understand where those voters are and what they care about and what the price is going to be, should they go awry, I mean, it's truly, we're so pleased to have our Family Foundation Action Team that is out knocking doors and is out speaking to voters about where candidates stand, because, ultimately that allows our lobbying team, our team that goes in and advocates, it allows that relationship is improved because these candidates know, okay, they're not just talking about policy, they're going to talk to my voters about policy, and that connection, it matters.
Yes, I totally agree. Part of why APP went down this road was after the 2016 election, you both remember this, Pat McCrory lost in North Carolina. He was running for governor, re-election, and he had signed a bathroom bill into law. The bathroom bill actually was very popular when you pulled it. It was a 70-30 issue on average, but the LGBT groups
and
all came in. The corporations, they all canceled. But we went down and met with him, and we said, what happened? Why'd you lose? And he summed it up. He said, no one had my back.
Yeah.
He said, I had all these people tell me to sign the legislation to law, to support it. They'd have my back. He's like, I got a bus tour. And by the way, every town that bus tour went to, the media covered it and was talking about all the economic boycotting. And so literally we drove, me, Frank Cannon, Jeff Bell, our late policy director, we drove back 7 hours from Charlotte, and we plotted and planned how to really put together a political action committee that could best serve the American people and help politicians like McCrory when they're coming under fire.
Okay, because I was thinking when you first said you showed them the 80-20 issues and they're still hesitant, I'm thinking, well, that's a lot of brainwashing establishment that they still don't want to go out. But the other side of that is them feeling backed up.
Yeah. Well, because look, it could be an 80-20 issue, but the opponent's not going to be honest about the attacks on you. They're going to say Pat McCrory signed HB 2 into law, which cost the state of North Carolina $3.5 billion in economic activity. We need to unelect him. The reality is Pat McCrory signed a bill into law that would keep men out of women's locker rooms, showers, and restrooms. They're not going to say that. We have to say that. That's the nature of politics. Your opponents aren't going to do your work for you. They're going to lie, actually. They're going to do anti-work for you.
There's a lot of intimidation factor out there we need to help them overcome. But let me shift gears real quick.
Yes, ma'am.
I did want to get y'all's take on this cultural moment we're having right now on the internet, on social media, and that is the Coldplay couple. At the time that we are taping this has been going viral for days. And I'm not really, should we be concerned that everyone is in an uproar about this? Is this a good sign or a bad sign? And the other thing I saw, well, let me just back up in case some people, if you live in a hole, you don't know what happened.
Historical purposes.
Yeah. What happened here is they were at this couple, they're at a Coldplay concert, and I guess Coldplay's been doing these kiss cams, and it gives the lead singer a chance to do some on-the-spot dialogue, have some fun with the audience. And apparently this couple was not married. They were, it was this CEO of a tech company. Yes. And he was cuddling with someone, gets caught on the kiss cam, and it's become apparent this was not his wife, and he did have a wife, so it looks like they were in an affair. It looks like this was the HR
director at his company. So
and so since then, this has been going viral. You know, their reaction was she covered her face up with her hands, and he backed away, and they tried to hide from the camera. And so now globally, nationally and globally, you have people at sporting events, all of these concerts replicating what they did. The kiss cam comes and they just imitate that couple. And I did have to laugh at some of these. But at the same time, there is a devastating reality of families being torn apart in this situation, a marriage, that's just tragedy. But people are having fun with it. And then I saw this commentary that this was something unifying Americans across political parties, that this was a unifying moment. So should we be concerned that this is what's unifying us right now?
I think it'd be great if our national morality was bigger than, it's bad for a man to be cheating on his wife. I think the reality is that we've made marriage almost a meaningless institution legally anyway. Still impacts us societally. And these divorces are just way too much. We basically have lost the entire purpose of marriage. I know guys that have cheated on their wives that, thank God, went back to them and they rectified it. It's a very difficult thing for wives to get over, and rightfully so. And it's vice versa with women. But these guys, they need to realize that all of the success, all of the stardom, all of the money that you're getting, it's nothing if you die and your children hate you. I will tell you this. My dad, this stuff hits me because I really don't judge people on this stuff, because my dad was a recovering crack addict. Like, not cocaine, not marijuana, not alcohol, crack. Like the most white trash, gross drug ever. And he got clean because my mom threatened to file for divorce when she was pregnant with number 4. And he was the 4th born in his family. And he spiraled out of control, got addicted to drugs and alcohol because of his own parents' divorce when he was a freshman in high school. So my dad had 2 choices. I can go live the life I really want to live and screw my kids. They can go down the same path that I do, or I can break the cycle and get clean, stay married to my wife. So we broke the cycle. That maniac and my mom repaired their marriage, went on to have 6 more children. I'm the oldest of 10. I could have only been the oldest of 4, right? And so I just look at and then I've got siblings that are all having tons of kids. In fact, my dad passed away 4 years ago, unfortunately. And the most beautiful most beautiful experience I think I've ever had was all 10 of us were surrounding him as he took his last breath. And, we were praying for him, thinking God out loud, it could have been much worse. He could have died in a ditch. He could have died of an overdose. And a lot of these kids today are dying of overdoses from fentanyl and all of this. And why is it? It's because we've broken up the family. It's because we've said my rights as an individual are greater than the community, even the most sacred community, which is your own flesh and blood, the children that you have brought, that God has given you to take care of in this world. And so anytime there's a moment like this in pop culture or politics or whatever, I'm always just encouraging people, get right, go back to your wife, go back to your home, repair it, break the cycle. Do not pass this cycle on to the next generation, because it's going to get worse and worse and worse.
Well, do you think people are upset because there's still something in our culture that wants marriage to be sacred? Or do you think they're just upset about the corporate thing and the HR director?
No, I think that regardless, I think people always are disgusted by infidelity. Rightfully so. It's a natural thing. God has this natural order that he created to us as human beings. We all have a conscience that he put on us. And I think Americans, I think human beings are always, you might lose it down the road, you might get desensitized to it, but I still think that the vast majority of Americans are good, God-fearing people. And when they see stuff like this, it's just so appalling, because the problem with sexual infidelity and sins is that you're not just attacking everyone around you, you're destroying your own self.
I'm going to assume that when people do this, there's hurt on both sides, or holes in your heart, just like with the drug addiction, that both people are bringing in. And that's why we need Jesus in these situations. Only he can restore these kind of things. But Victoria, I want to get your take. Is this dangerous? Is this a warning sign that this is a unifying moment? We can't unify around nuking nuclear weapons in Iran. It's got to be Coldplay has got to be the unity.
I worry a little bit that it's unifying in that everybody knows somebody that's been a victim of infidelity. It's like it's too relatable, which is concerning to me. And a little bit, a little underpinning of it is, I think America likes to get the big guy, and when you're worth $1.3 billion, it's sort of like, you think you have it all, but you just screwed it all up, and now you've lost it all. So I worry a little bit. There's sort of this sinful gotcha, thing with, because people do in fact have affairs all the time, and everyone does know people that have been caught in that, and it doesn't usually capture the attention that this one has, and I think it is because he carries this outsized influence because of his company and so forth. So it is always tragic. Our reaction should be, it's tragic whenever this happens, because again, there are kids that are going to your point, it begins the downhill of so much. Kids just don't recover from divorce. For a long time, people talked about kids are so resilient. I hate when I hear people say kids are so resilient, because it feels like an excuse for adults to do what adults want to do and harm the child. That's what they mean when they say kids are so resilient. It's like, they'll be fine, whatever is going on with my spouse that we're going to now divorce and whatever.
It's not true.
No, it is not true, because even adults whose parents divorce when they're adults have impact. I mean, there's a rootedness that we get from having a mom and a dad and having them in a lifelong marriage, knowing that anchor, that firm foundation is going to be there. And that's what we spring forward from in life. That's part of how we flourish. So when that gets broken apart, it is deep, and it is so fragile. It turns what is rootedness in someone to just the sense of lostness. Yeah. And it can trigger, to your point about drugs and all these other things, it can trigger behaviors and hurt people, right? So then what happens in their life and so forth. And so it is truly devastating. Culture, it's funny to watch these cultural moments and just watch people react and watch the analysis of it. I'm interested in your take on another cultural moment. I don't know if you've seen this, but people are talking about this Nike commercial with Scotty Scheffler, I believe it is, and he wins this big championship, and his baby is, and he goes to his kid, and it's kind of you've already won, because his interviews, I mean, he gets it, he gets that. Really, life is not about the golf tournament. It's about the family. And I actually think that's a beautiful cultural moment that we're in, that people are embracing. So
I haven't seen this. So the kid,
it's just a powerful, I don't know.
Well, Scotty Scheffler won the tournament, and they let his kid start walking up the hill to him. His kid's like stumbling up the hill. He goes over to help him pick him up, but he's letting him play with the trophy. It's
a great fatherhood moment. And I am seeing little pieces like that coming back into, and Nike is not exactly the company that we've all held up as the pro-family company. They've been a champion of all things sort of pride and otherwise, just like many of these companies. So it's just nice to see, we're seeing a little bit more in filmmaking, and we're seeing some return to, hey, like kids are good and families, so I like that. What do you think?
I love it, Victoria. I think that it's a real sign that we are starting to shift the culture. I'm always cynical and skeptical of these corporations. They just exist to make money.
Well, they know what, but are they realizing marketing to this audience?
Right.
There might be
That's
something
the bigger
there.
tell. It's not that
the company
Nike's
has. They don't have altruistic.
No.
Trust me. But
Nike's not the hope. The hope is the market. Right. And who Nike is marketing to. Right. It's a big shift from this individualistic culture. It really says, when you say you've already won.
Yeah.
Right? That is absolutely true. If you have a child, you've already won. You have someone that you can form, someone you can talk to, someone that you can love, right? I feel like we've lost, like, during the whole gay marriage battle, like, love is love. Like, what is that thing? Right? What is love? I would submit that love is the willingness and the ability to sacrifice yourself for the betterment of other people. And that's the only way it can be. You can give without loving, but you can't love without giving. Those are two things that are tied together. And I will just say, I think it's beautiful that Scotty Scheffler was in and out of jail.
Yeah, his story. I mean, it's interesting.
No, he wasn't in jail. He got arrested.
He got arrested or whatever.
For
That whole ridiculousness was.
Yeah.
I mean, like.
But I will say this regarding the whole marriage thing. I think that marriage is in a crisis in America. It's been a crisis for a long time. I think that we have to start looking at it again as that permanent institution through goodness and bad, through sickness and in health. I had a really good friend that I've known and loved almost my whole entire life. And she got a divorce early on in her life. And she told me the worst possible reason for the divorce. They were just heading in different directions.
Yeah,
Well, head in a different direction.
Yeah, right? Go the direction of your spouse then.
Right,
sacrifice.
Right. It's all about that. And like, my wife and I have had lots of conversations. Like, we're just in it. Like, there's no out. Like, we just have to work through this. Whatever comes up, we're together. One thing that's helpful is uniting against the children, because you are kind of like in a battle against them. They test you every day.
There are alliances among our kids, and it is a little like, are Matt and I going to be able to take on these two that have kind of paired up? And it's real.
But practically speaking, you come home from work and the house is a mess.
Oh yeah.
That's not Katie's fault. That's Reagan's fault. That's Bobby's fault. That's Peter's fault. That's Tucker's fault. Like, that is their fault. They're the enemy. And if you can see it through that lens, you're going to be so much closer to your spouse. You're going to be so much happier. You need to be united in your marriage and everything. Yeah. And the moment you start to keep secrets or break away, that's when things really start to go awry.
Can I circle back to one thing you said, because it's really powerful. We talked about the law being a teacher, and then you talked about, like, there's more to marriage than our love or our personal right. Well, what's happening with our Virginia Marriage Amendment is literally they have inserted the word. So they're putting in our Constitution, they're going to say that it is a personal right, that marriage is a personal right, and they're removing these words, benefits, obligations, and I forget what the third word is. They're literally strike that out and make it a personal right that means nothing. That is in law what they're going to do if we're unsuccessful in stopping this.
And adding the transgender.
Well, yes, of course, there's so much more to it, but I just, I think about this just sort of even before we even talk about the same-sex issue, they have redefined the whole purpose of marriage. I was actually explaining this at a church on Sunday. The whole purpose of marriage, it isn't just about you and your spouse. It is an outward-facing. It is connection to the community, and that right and obligation is what brings up that next generation. That's the whole reason the government cares about marriage. So the idea that they strike that out is just so it's just distressing for Virginians.
So there's a great book called The Global Sexual Revolution that's documented like the whole movement. But George Gilder actually has written a couple books on this. In 1973, he wrote this book called Sexual Suicide. Then he wrote a revision of it in 1986 called Men and Marriage, about how marriage civilizes men. Yes. Young men are terrible. Single young men. They commit the vast majority of crimes, the vast majority of violence. They cause society so much. Single women actually make more money than single men. So we got to get men getting married again. But what he wrote about was that he details all of these sexual liberation movements, open marriages, polygamy, same-sex marriages, LGBT rights, all of this stuff. And that gets back to my point earlier about in the 60s, how these radical progressive activists were trying to just destroy America. They were communists. And they threw everything at the wall. Polygamy didn't take off. Open marriages almost took off.
I mean, we just had a cultural moment with the whole thing with going on with Chip and Joanna Gaines.
And their photographer, I guess, is in a polygamous relationship. Right.
Is it Utah? It's probably Utah.
No,
it's not Utah.
I don't think they're photographers. No, it is not.
But the thing with these
cultural
moments...
But it kind of came out as part of that story.
I mean... The thing with these cultural moments, there is something in our hearts, even if we're not coming from a biblical background, that wants that marriage, wants that stability, wants to belong to a family. There's just something there that I'd like to look at the silver lining and think with these cultural moments.
She's our resident optimist.
That's one reason it is a cultural moment, because there's something that God's put in all of us to want that, want those things to be some kind of foundation.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. God gave us marriage before he ever even gave us government. It's an institution that precedes society. It's the first society. It's the first community we're all part of. One thing that I'll tell you is that marriage teaches you a lot. And the harder the marriage is, the more love there is, the more sacrifice is going on. So there's like this beautiful, weird, mystical thing that God gave us through marriage. It literally is your path to heaven. It's your path to purification and dying to yourself. But it teaches you so much. Like I told you earlier, I'm the eldest of 10 kids. I have had to learn how to put up with people that I really can't stand, right? Like I've had to put up with so much disorder and dysfunction and annoying people. It's like, I feel like if everyone was part of a big family, we would not have all the problems we have. There would be so much more tolerance and acceptance of just how people are sometimes, how they can be really annoying and in your face. We just accept that. I feel like part of why we have all these conflicts going on and all these like tolerance campaigns is because we've stopped having children. We've stopped having bigger families.
They don't.
Yeah,
I think that's
true.
absolutely right.
Well, I love how open you are about what your father went through. And by the way, I saw in your bio that you helped manage his campaign and he defeated a Democrat incumbent.
Yes.
Congressman
Bobby Schilling. Yes, ma'am.
But how did that impact who you are today and the fact that this is the role God's put you in? Do you consider that part of your journey preparing you for this?
Yeah, no, look, I think having an addicted father was very formational. It really...
do you remember that part of his life?
I do. And what's beautiful is that, so when he was dying, because he had a rare form of cancer, and God bless my organization because they let me spend the last month and a half with him to take care of him. But I remember taking my younger siblings to Target to get, food and stuff just to keep the house full. And I brought up like, well, you guys should just be lucky he's even around. Like, don't be so sad. Like you might not have ever even known him.
Time with him.
You might not have ever been born if he didn't get clean. So like, be grateful for what we have. And they looked at me like, what are you talking about? They had no clue about his drug addiction. But I vaguely remember like my mom like throwing me in the car at like late at night, like trying to find him. Because I was like, I was a little kid. And I remember like him not coming home for a few days on these benders. But that was formational. But I'll tell you what was happening was he realized he wasn't busy enough and he had all this free time because he was a very good salesman. He was very good at,
so that runs in the family too.
I don't know if I'm a good salesman, but I just love people. But he started a pizza restaurant to keep him busy, and he brought all of the kids with him to work there. And so my dad didn't come to my baseball games or basketball games, and I'm not bitter about that. I have no issues because I spent so much time with him at the pizza restaurant. Where we bonded was through working together, through labor. And it wasn't just the restaurant, it was house projects. He built 2 of our homes, and I would have to run the pizza place at like 14, 15 years old. So he was always working, but the campaign was just such a blessing because I got to spend, a lot of time with them. And it was just fantastic. I got to have these serious conversations. Tucker Carlson just talked about this the other day about on Culture Apothecary with Alex Clark about how his biggest regret is he didn't homeschool his children. And he's like, people react like, oh, you want your father to teach you? Like, well, he's like, I realized like I learned the vast majority of what I know is from my parents. And that's the same thing for me. I think it's the same thing for everyone else. Everything I actually know that's worth anything in life, I learned from my parents, from my grandparents, from my I was blessed because I'm the eldest of an eldest of teenage pregnancies. And so I knew my great-grandma. I was very close. My great-grandmother was like 60 years old. And my daughter got to know her great-great-grandmother because of my own teenage pregnancy. Well, not my teenage pregnancy, but anyway. But I learned so much from my dad. That campaign, it still is always going to be my favorite campaign ever just because it was so tough and we had no business winning. But like we just prayed and we're faithful. We got our opponent on camera saying he didn't care about the Constitution. We won by 10 points. We raised $1.5 million. That was the first campaign I ever ran. I'd worked on other campaigns, but that was the best experience ever. And I really miss them and miss that campaign.
This has been one of the most fun conversations we've ever had on this podcast.
This tremendously.
But, Turi, as we kind of wrap up here, how do you encourage people to stay in the fight? Just everything that you've been talking about, where you're coming from, how you're fighting to defend all of these things that you know at a gut level. Virginia is in a tough battle right now for governor. We have slim margins in our General Assembly in both chambers. We've got, as Victoria mentioned, the amendment, the marriage amendment. We also have this big battle coming up over an amendment to enshrine unlimited abortion in the state constitution. What would you say to our audience just to encourage them to just keep up the fight?
Every great thing that's ever been accomplished in this world came at a cost, right? And I feel like right now we've done a ton of great work. We've laid this up. The culture war is now winning. Everyone should get involved. You should not be like, I feel like before 2020 or even before 2024, it was risky to get involved in the culture war. The public, at least the public perception, the elites in the media were pushing this narrative like, you do the culture war, you're going to lose. You do the culture war, it's unpopular. Democrats are winning.
We would be at this point?
On the gender stuff, I did just because,
Yeah, you were one of the first ones that had that vision.
Boys and girls sports, just like, what is this? It doesn't make any sense. And giving kids sex changes, that's crazy. We're winning. We just need the manpower. You need to have faith. You need to step into the arena, get off the sidelines, and honestly, take some time off of work. Take your kids on the campaign trail, right? Like go door knock. Each of us has a neighborhood. Each of us has neighbors. We can sign up to be precinct committee people. We're going to lose our country if we don't get more people involved on fighting for the good guys. That's just reality. We have a manpower shortage. We need more people engaged. Everyone complains to me about how corrupt politicians are, how bad they are. Why do you think that is? It's because you're not involved. It's because you just got involved yesterday, because you've listened to the news.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's corrupted because the right people aren't getting engaged. Yeah. If you got a problem with something, run.
You got to shine the light in the darkness.
And pray your heart out. Go to church. Go to church every Sunday. At least every Sunday. You have to go to church every Sunday. I don't care if you're tired. I don't care if you're poor. Figure out how to get to church. You're going to be a much better person. You'll be more, not that God blesses you for showing up, but it's a way to reset your brain. It's a way to get to a quiet point where you can really reflect about how your life's going, what can change. God is there. He'll help you if you ask him, but you have to ask him. And if you're
Have
not showing up at
perspective.
church,
It gives you perspective. You can't fight the culture war without having the perspective of God, right?
That's right.
Victoria, what would you say? Like for people that are weary.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just not overnight. These wins don't happen overnight. Even where we are in this moment with the gender stuff, it
Years
didn't.
ago.
I mean, we've been fighting this for quite some time, and we're getting to now see some fruit of our of our labor. But and so just because you can't see it around the corner doesn't mean it isn't. Like God gives us a little view, like a short window, like we get to see a step in front of ourselves, but we don't know what's around the bend. And I think if you don't realize that by now, having President Trump in office, where we don't know what the next turn is because he's pretty unpredictable and he makes big moves, and so things sort of turn on a dime right now. And I never envisioned that we'd have such a strong Supreme Court on so many issues.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that took time. That wasn't overnight. Those people serve lifetime terms. And so the idea that, we're now there is remarkable. So I think it's really about the patience and understanding that, we're called to faithfulness. That's going to be seasons. There's going to be seasons of wins. There's going to be seasons of losses, but it doesn't mean that the fight is not long-term worth it. And I mean, I don't know. My faith requires me to believe that we're victorious because we have someone who has already won. We're just walking it out with the Savior. So that's just sort of my perspective. But
that's right.
Anyway.
And I will mention that we are celebrating our 40th anniversary this year, and Victoria has been here for the majority. Should I say this?
25 years.
25 years.
Wow.
So you understand what long-term perspective.
It's a long-term game. And where we were when I started and where we are now as a Commonwealth, very different. Great on some things, worse on other things. And that's the ebb and flow of history. But the faithfulness is still required. It's just what we're supposed to do. Thank heavens he chooses to work through us. Like why I never, God can do whatever he wants to do. He doesn't need to use us. He sure doesn't need me. But somehow he chooses to let us be in like a working part of his plan. It's very cool.
And he uses all of you listening.
Yes.
All right, let's do this outtake and then we'll wrap it up.
Sounds good.
What are you, if you had to pick one issue, for both of you, what are you most concerned about and what are you most encouraged by? I know that could be a big question, but we'll try to do it short. So,
You want to go first?
yeah.
Sure. I mean, most concerned, and this sounds sort of big picture, but I'm concerned about the role of AI and what it's going to do in every space. So there's great things about AI, but the idea that you can literally deep fake everything about another human being, their voice, their visuals, I don't know what that will do for politics. I don't know in terms of just campaigns. Do good people still enter politics when they know that, you're going to become the target? And not only are you the target, people have the ability now to literally pretend that you are someone saying something that you've never said, you've never done. I just worry about like some of these consequences because as you shape politics, then of course, as we said, the law is the teacher, you shape the policy, then that shapes the culture. So I just worry about some of that. That's sort of.
You heard what happened with Rubio. They were have someone mimic him with AI and calling heads of state.
What does this do long term for our culture? So I would say that's probably, and it sounds sort of I don't know, sci-fi, but that's where we're headed, and I just worry about that. And I worry about transhumanism, like what science is attempting to do with human life, and the formation of human life and where that is going should alarm us all. And that's going to be the next wave of what does it mean to be pro-life? I mean, and it's great because in one sense, it's like Christians are the only ones that we fully understand so much the image of God on humanity that we can have clear thinking even through really bizarre science coming at us. So that's the great part is we'll be the most clear-headed, logical people when these crazy things come at us. But there's an interesting world ahead of us. Battles we haven't even thought about hardly.
Yeah.
I would say my biggest worry is Gen Z and the situation that they find themselves in and where my kids will end up. They're not getting married. They're not having kids. They can't afford homes. I can barely afford to buy a home today. I was looking at the prices. The interest rates are way too high. I think that we've robbed this youngest generation. Like for the first time in American history, the next generation is going to inherit a much more difficult and terrible life than their ancestors did, than their ancestors had.
That's sobering to think about.
It's so we got to get people figure out how to get people getting married and having kids again. And it's economic, but even more so, it's hope. in the future that they're lacking. They're despairing. Like, to say that 40% of Gen Zers say they'll never get married.
Never get married.
43% say they'll never have kids. 40% say they'll never get married. Like, I can't imagine my life without being married. That is a terrible, to not have a life partner that's with you through thick and thin, that you can rely upon, that you can also serve and grow as a human being. Holy cow. Like, that is an empty vision.
Short-sighted too of what your end of life would look like. I mean, think about, no children to care for you in your final days, like you for your dad.
Right.
I mean,
but even if you're talking about a population crisis at that point, because okay, no, forget the children. Who's even going to be around in the nursing homes to take care of you, right?
Like, even just basic social fabric. If you do not have marriages and then children and a unit, I mean, that's the whole thing with totalitarianism and socialism. So it's right there.
Yeah. No, it's terrible. So that's what I'm worried about.
Do y'all have any good things you want to say before we?
I don't want to end on what we're worried about. Well, I will say where we are because of a variety of factors, but the gender, that we're returning to common sense and that we're exposing. I mean, we were able to interview, the FTC chairman talking about the gender, exposing the fraud. Just that we're making so much progress on that, because I don't want any more kids harmed by this ridiculous notion that somehow you can change the God-given sex that you were born with, and that you're going to then be permanently a product of the medical industry at their disposal. I want to see that end, and I think we are. We are heading in that direction.
I hope it continues.
Correct.
We're winning on that. Yeah.
Look, I'm optimistic in the future on all these culture war battles. I think that
all of them,
almost every single one of them. Except, gay marriage. I think that's a tough sell to the American people at all. I think it's hard to make a case. Anyway, I think I'm optimistic that we're going to win in terms of stopping all the bad stuff, or at least a lot of the bad stuff. I think we're going to protect kids from porn online. We're going to get nationwide age verification passed, I think, within the next 5 to 10 years, hopefully close to that 5 mark. But if you look at where we're at and where we're positioned, we have the White House. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had an entire workshop at the Federal Trade Commission on the deception and unfair trade practices that are being used by the gender industry.
Yeah.
A month before that, we had a whole workshop on how to protect children online. So we now have the reins of power. We just have to get more people in our party comfortable using them. I think the biggest problem that Republicans and conservatives have had is the American people will elect us. They'll give us political power.
And they're hesitant to do anything.
They're hesitant to use the political power that the American people are begging them to use for justice and to make their lives better. So I think that I'm very optimistic in the future. I think Trump has shown Republicans how to win. I think we have a great crop. Like, if you look at our team, the team that's sitting on the bench waiting to get in the game, we've got J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, Tulsi Gabbard. Like, we have all these amazing people that are willing to step in. They have AOC. They have Bernie Sanders. They have this Muslim, communist guy in New York City, Zoran Mamdani. Like, their bench is so weak. It's so evil. We just need people that are courageous enough to call them out and hold them accountable for on the campaign trail.
I really appreciate hearing this. So you have optimism after Trump, because he's kind of the disruptor that needed to shake everything up. But you feel like we're going to be able to continue this momentum, even after the disruptor has left. Right?
And not only can we must. Right, it's a matter of survival.
We can and will.
Yeah,
You're optimistic.
Look, the two front runners right now are J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio for 2020. I'm already looking at that direction, but they are fantastic.
Yes,
they are actually the continuation of Trump. A lot of people gave Rubio grief over the immigration stuff back in 2013, but he's been the guy on the front lines fighting to expand economic relief for families, fighting to protect labor and the workforce. We have a new crop of guys that are willing to be unconventional, and they aren't strapped down by these, I love Ronald Reagan, but he did some wrong things, right? And he did some things that hurt our country, and that's okay. Every president does. They can still be great.
No-fault divorce was Ronald Reagan. People forget
abortion,
that.
He did abortion, no-fault divorce. Yeah. He did free trade that gutted out our manufacturing industries.
But we won't even get into the free trade debate.
Yeah, no, that's
right.
That's right. But I will just say, I'm very optimistic. Our bench of candidates is so much stronger, and our policies are, obviously, right? We have optimism in the future. We have optimism in the American people to solve all these problems. Yeah. Democrats have so much pessimism. They're selling a false bill of goods. We just got to do our job and show up. And
let's end on that note. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Let people know how they can check you out. You have a podcast, right?
Yeah, it's called The Terry Schilling Show. Very original name, I know. But give us a follow on Facebook. I get some really great guests on. We have Jim Banks coming up, and who's from Indiana, obviously where we're at now. We've got a great host. I'm just totally blanking because I didn't get much sleep last night. But
so none of us got sleep. I'm just gonna. If any of this podcast was weird, none of us got sleep last night.
yes.
So, thank you for joining us so much for another episode of Speak Up Virginia. Remember, you can share our playlist on YouTube, Speak Up Virginia. You can also check us out at familyfoundation.org. Be sure and share this with more people because remember, we are stronger when we speak together. See you next time.